Currently, Fernando Alonso is one of the most sought-after figures in Formula One, leading an enviable lifestyle, with 4 podium finishes in the last 5 races, a feat that was unexpected given the skepticism surrounding his team last year. However, this was not quite usual for the UK-based team to sign a contract with the 41-year-old veteran. Adding to this intrigue, Alonso, hailing from Spain, has offered more details about his future with Aston Martin. It raises the question, might we witness the 2-time world champion continuing his racing career beyond the age of 45? Aston Martin has undeniably emerged as a captivating spectacle in the 2023 Formula One season, and despite previously facing criticism from more triumphant competitors for their approach to the sport, they've now ascended to the status of second quickest team on the grid, effectively silencing the doubters. Even though they still trail behind Red Bull, the remarkable progress they've exhibited in 2022 is a testament to the boundless possibilities when under the right leadership. Dan Fallows, standing as a shining beacon for all teams, save for Red Bull, demonstrating the heights that can be achieved with the correct guidance. Nevertheless, Aston Martin's renown isn't solely due to its technical department, with much credit also owed to Fernando Alonso. The esteemed driver made a surprising move from Alpine, a team once regarded as the top of the second tier, to Aston Martin mid-season. This was a team struggling to tally points and had earned the nickname Green Red Bull during the Barcelona circuit, though the reasons were less than flattering, and so Alonso's tradition has, without a doubt, contributed significantly to the team's turnaround. Back then, Alonso expressed his faith in the vision put forth by Lawrence Stroll, and it didn't require much convincing for him to depart from Alpine for a team that had yet to demonstrate their ability to perform. The consensus among F1 pundits was that this move signaled Alonso's downfall, and that he was destined to share the same fate as Sebastian Vettel at Aston Martin. However, the tables have turned dramatically. Alonso currently boasts 75 points in the Drivers' Championship, far outstripping Alpine, which as a team has only managed to secure 14 points. We already know that Aston Martin is set to make a big splash in 2023, potentially even battling for victories, because you can tell Lawrence Stroll can't wait to see either Alonso or Stroll himself clinch the top spot on the podium. Hearing Alonso talk about extending his contract with Aston Martin, going beyond the one he signed last year, has absolutely thrilled us as F1 fans, and it really looks like we're going to witness even more impressive feats from the 2-time world champion. Before we dive into Alonso's recent remarks, let's take a moment to examine the future of Aston Martin and consider the tantalizing prospect we nearly witnessed in 2010 and 2012, that of Fernando Alonso securing a 3rd world championship. As it's worth acknowledging the strides Aston Martin has made, their progress is truly commendable. Even Toto Wolff, head of Mercedes, has tipped his hat to them. He suggested that if Mercedes wants to move forward, they should follow the example of their customer team, Aston Martin. They've been demonstrating how a car equipped with Mercedes mechanical parts should ideally be performing. Fascinating stuff, right? As you all know, Lawrence Stroll's determination is unyielding. He's not settling for anything less than a championship after pouring so much investment into this team, and this clearly shows that we haven't seen the ultimate version of the Silverstone-based squad just yet. They're making strategic maneuvers, constructing their own wind tunnel, and distancing themselves from Mercedes, implying that with greater independence, they're wielding more power. Now, you might be wondering, why are we discussing this? Well, it's because this very project is what captivated Alonso and enticed him to join Aston Martin. And guess what? He's now proving all the doubters wrong. And here's the exciting part. It appears that Alonso is all set to continue defying expectations in the upcoming years. Despite approaching his 44th birthday by the time his current contract concludes, he's open to extending his stay if the situation remains as favorable as it is right now. To be more specific, if at any stage during Alonso's stint with Aston Martin, the team squares off against Red Bull for the championship, you can bet your bottom dollar that Alonso would be at the top pick to spearhead Aston Martin's charge towards their maiden championship. He's all in. When talking about his future with Aston Martin, the 2-time world champion said, "Things seem to be going better than we expected this year, and maybe that means being tempted to extend the contract in the future. But there is also the temptation to finish, and do it with a smile on my face. I don't know, honestly." Interestingly, Alonso's temptation suggests that he might think about bowing out while he's still at the top of his game. This implies that a 3rd championship may not be the only ambition he's pursuing, but instead consistent podium finishes and remaining competitive might be his primary objective for his final years in Formula One. This resonates with why Sebastian Vettel decided to retire from the sport, because unlike Alonso, Vettel didn't believe that Aston Martin would manage to step up their game in 2023. He repeatedly stated that the thrill of vying for podium spots and scrapping for points simply didn't measure up, which ultimately led him to part ways with the sport. Alonso, it seems, has a different perspective. Yet, there's another factor fueling Alonso's motivation: the upcoming regulation change slated for 2026, which is still a couple of seasons away. During this time, we're set to see an increase in the electrification of the cars and the exciting entrance of a brand new team, Audi, into the sport. These developments serve as an enticing, positive lure for Alonso to stick around and continue his racing career. Speaking about this, the two-time world champion remarked, "It's true that in 2026 there will be another change in regulations with the new engines. And that is another temptation. I feel fresh. I feel fast. I feel motivated. Whether it's 2, 3, 4, or however many years, I don't know yet. To be in F1, you give up family, life, and friendships, so it has to be worth it. Especially at the end of my career, I want to fight for something important again." So, it's pretty much obvious now. Alonso has indeed picked the perfect team to make a championship bid in the near future. Aston Martin is definitely on an upward trajectory, and it appears they've managed to squeeze more speed out of their car than any other team on the grid. If they maintain this ascendancy, you can bet that Alonso would be more than willing to extend his partnership with the Silverstone-based outfit even beyond his 45th birthday. By doing so, he'd set a record as one of the oldest drivers to compete in the modern era F1 season. This of course doesn't account for the bygone era, when we had drivers aged 58 and 56 years old like Lewis Chiron and Luigi Plate. Quite a feat, wouldn't you say? Another aspect that might be drawing Alonso towards extending his stay with Aston Martin is their overarching mission and the bigger picture. If you've been paying close attention to the radio exchanges between Alonso and his engineer, you'd have noticed Alonso's consistent support from his teammate Lance Stroll. He's been vocal in praising Stroll's moves, notably in Miami, and even offered his braking advice to Stroll in Baku to help his teammate improve. Stroll reciprocated this positive energy, informing his engineer that he wouldn't make a move on Alonso in Baku, as they were on the same team strategy. This team-oriented approach indeed paid off, resulting in favorable outcomes for both of them. This is what teamwork is all about, right? Alonso has indeed stated that he sees Lance Stroll as the one to helm the team for the next decade and a half or so. We've witnessed some exceptional races from Stroll during his stint with Williams. However, it seemed his performance dipped somewhat when his father took the reins of the team he was driving for. But with Alonso's competitive spirit in full force in 2023, Lance is now compelled to demonstrate that he's cut from true F1 cloth, precisely what the team requires if they are going to take on Red Bull in the championship race in the near future. So, is it possible that we might see Alonso extending his partnership with Aston Martin beyond 2024? Absolutely. While it was initially thought that he would sign on for a 3-year tenure with Aston Martin, Alonso seems to be adopting a more measured, step-by-step approach. However, he did mention that if there's any team he'd commit to at this stage in his career, it would undoubtedly be Aston Martin. He expressed this sentiment earlier in April, saying, "I don't know if I will sign another contract, but if it happens, I know it will be here." Alonso is one of those unique drivers on the grid who has very few distractors. His recent interactions with Lance Stroll have certainly highlighted his character. That's why the 2005 and 2006 championship is being so closely courted by Aston Martin. They're eager to demonstrate to the world that, even though they might be trailing behind Red Bull in 2023, the upgrades slated for later in the season have real potential to rival the RB19, a point Alonso himself has confirmed. Now, all we can do is wait and see whether the Spanish powerhouse of a driver has the determination to embark on yet another Formula One journey. But here's one thing we're sure of: if there's any driver out there who's capable of racing well into his 45th year, it's going to be Fernando Alonso. Let us know your thoughts and opinions about Alonso. Will he race well into his 40s, and what will his future team be? Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.